J. Nelson here. You know what the J stands for? Connor is with me. This is 372 pages. We'll never get back. Connor, do you know what the J is?
That's, wow. Does it, John?
Yeah, that's my parents were not married.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Jojo.
Yes, I don't know.
Jojo might have been, that would be the sort of thing where the past 15 years flashed before my eyes.
Yeah, that would be that would have come out, I'm sure, in some sort of get me on the ground in a circle and taunt me kind of way.
You're waving your hands at Bridget. No, don't.
No, not even for a cheap laugh. Come on. This is 372 pages. We'll never get back. This is the podcast where we talk about books that Connor and I, who also work together over at rifftracks.com, check it out, we go through books we don't expect to like, and then we kind of break them down, and we're in the middle of one called Gump Co.
Yeah.
By the late Winston Groom. Connor, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts is, I thought about this about 10 minutes ago, is that we've neglected to use the turn of phrase, it's time to take a gump, the whole time we've been reading this book. So that's where I'm at with this one.
Points off. We deserve to have our Patreon account taken away from us.
Yeah. But evidently, I mean, we picked this book because obviously Forrest Gump was one of the most popular movies of the 90s. This book never got made into a movie, so it was sort of a black sheep follow-up, and none of us had read the book the movie was based on, obviously. And when we thought that it was probably a movie book series that was not going to have aged particularly well. However, I got an email this week from a listener named Thomas who informed us that the Gump zeitgeist may be just starting to stir up again.
Oh my goodness!
In an unexpected way, and by all accounts, this does not appear to be parody. It does not appear to be a prank. But he emailed and just said, the official Hindi adaptation of Forrest Gump was just announced and will release this August. And he links to the Hindustan Times, which has an article. It says that in the almost 3-minute-long trailer, we get a glimpse at Amir's Lal Singh Chadha, a simple, unassuming man raised on a farm by his doting mother. We see how the young Lal had a disability that required him to have leg braces, and then miraculously he broke free as his friend yelled, "Bog Lal Bahag." No prize for Run Forrest Run flashbacks. And then we see him grow up, go to war. We see Vimy, who is the Jenny character. And the film flips through a few decades of Indian history, just like the original did with American history. And then there's a 3-minute trailer you can watch.
What?
It looks like it's bizarre because it has, the slow-mo of him running and the braces falling off. You have this guy who, I don't know, is doing a goofy Forrest Gumpy expression throughout most of the trailer, and it has the feather flying around as he's sitting on a bench. It looks, obviously it wouldn't be the same thing, but it looks like something that, Tracy Jordan would have, what did you do during the break between seasons, Tracy? Like, Liz Lemon, I went to India and I was in the remake of Forrest Gump. Like, it's bizarre. Wow.
If you had told me no, they were doing the Hindi version of Air Bud, I would have believed you more. I'd be like, that seems about time. Yeah,
and I guess it's just a framework. It's just every man sort of lives through major events in history, but it's just a very strange thing to see being remade 3 decades later.
I guess we're going to have to sit through it. Where can I stream this?
You could be a fan of the Hindi adaptation without ever having seen the first one. It can be your new Rush documentary thing.
Right. Take that stand online and just, swear at anyone who dares to cross me. And I swear it's way better.
And I'm sure that Hollywood does this all the time, and we're just not even aware of it. But it's just interesting to see it in reverse with a book that we've just finished reading. So I guess Winston Groom's estate might be getting a check for this, or maybe not. Maybe that wasn't part of his deal, and that's why he was so bitter.
Yeah, I'm kind of, now that you mention it, I'm kind of bitter. I think it was destroyed we had a storage space that a pipe broke and steamed all of our stored stuff into pulp, and I had books in there And one of them that I'm just now remembering was a friend went to Russia and brought back Alien 3, the book, the novelization of the movie, in Russian with a cover that someone had obviously just, hand-drawn onto this thing. And it was a beloved property. And now it's gone.
Wow,
so,
damn.
Yeah, quite a loss.
That would have been why are you on day 600 of Russian Duolingo, Mike? Are you trying to, read War and Peace in the original language? No.
I'm trying to see how closely it adheres to the
and I want the Fincher director's cut version.
Yes.
All right.
So good. Let's get into this is, by the way, the last section of the book. We're reading the whole thing. We're going to be done today. So no real or fanfic, although I'm sure some listeners are going to write in.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get your statistics. We'll get your statistics updated by the end of this podcast.
Okay, good. And we have some, obviously, some dumb sentences.
Very much dumb sentences, yes.
But let's dig in.
Sure. The book has been progressing in a, in a fairly predictable pattern of Forrest coming to a town, getting involved with either a major historical event or just some hijinks and tomfoolery, and then leaving town as a gang with pitchforks chase him away. And so far, he's been through, what have we been through? The Jim Baker, Tammy Faye, Jessica Hahn scandal, the Iran-Contra scandal.
The famous hog farm explosion.
Sure. The New Coke, I don't think that's a scandal, but the New Coke incident. And he's gotten a pig, he's taken it to the zoo, but he's crashed the Exxon Valdez, and now he's wound up in Iraq after bringing down the Berlin Wall, and he is in a tank with his former colonel or something, and they're headed to Baghdad.
And if you don't find anything funny about the first Gulf War, then you have not read Gump Co. Because hilarious, the hijinks that he gets in. He also has a very irritating habit, I think it's very irritating, of having real people, that is historical figures, with their full and real name, mixed in with caricatures of characters with their name bastardized to be funnier. And I find that extremely irritating. Pick one, man.
It's irritating because I don't know. I cease to know what's real. Like, later on we get to it, but he goes to Whitewater, the Clintons' developments, but then there's another name that sounds very much made up, and it's real. But I don't. It's the sort of thing you would do if you were doing a book version of parody satire type of thing. But you don't need to do that when you're talking about former U.S. presidents. Like that's they're you can make fun of them. That's been established. Like that's
yes, they are a public figure. You can have at it.
There wasn't a lawsuit from Gerald Ford versus Capitol Steps that played out in terse courtroom testimony.
Ford v. Steps, the famous case.
It might go a little something like this, Mr. Ford, Mr. Ford. All right. Well, yes. This starts off with, he says, let me say this, us being in the city of Baghdad was about as welcome as a tank full of bastards at a family reunion. And that, it just confused me because he's mixing a metaphor because they are in a tank as they go to Baghdad, but he's supposing that a tank full of bastard children might show up at a family reunion. And I didn't understand why they would be in a tank. I guess it's just time to move on at this point in time.
You don't like that old football coach saying, like a tank full of bastards? And, this was 1995, and he was, reaching back, I guess, a decade or whatever for his references here. But here's something for the kids, because, kids are going to be lost with this. This book is now so old, and the references might be old. So this is one for the kids. Okay. The post commander done took me off tank tread cleaning duty and put me on permanent latrine duty right out of No Time for Sergeants.
I did appreciate that.
Kids, the kids are like, I'm back in now. I love it again.
And what is that?
That was a play, I believe, that made Andy Griffith famous.
Wow.
So when Andy Griffith was in his 20s, so I don't know what year that pegs it as, probably 52 or something. So there you go.
I just wrote 4 question marks. That was my note.
Okay.
I also realized the sentence I just read was from chapter 12, and we're starting with chapter 11 here.
Yes, we're in chapter 11.
So yeah, he's on latrine duty, which of course is fitting due to how much of the book deals with him or other people being covered in excrements, whether human or not. And then we get the most recent of the running gag where someone hands him a paper and he reads a headline: "Dimwit secures end of Cold War." And then it has an article about that. So looking back, this may have been the gag that really put the nail in print media. The internet had nothing to do with it.
Right. Yeah, this gag is irritating. And here we get, I'll just read from that. Sources said soccer fans in their efforts to apprehend Mr. Gump, this was the fall of the wall.
Yes.
Pursued him across the wall and in the process began to dismantle the barrier, which has stood as a symbol of communist oppression for several decades. I mean, unkind people would say it was more than a symbol. People trapped behind it would say, wow, they shot my uncle when he attempted to crawl the wall. So it's more than just a symbol to me, but I appreciate that.
Right. It's not like one of those, a printed out pair of eyes they put next to the coffee pot that you're supposed to put a quarter in an office.
Yes.
It's not like it's the St. Louis Arch that's like standing there like representing the gateway to the West. It's a literal wall.
It is.
Well, the tone continues there very nicely because it says, joyous Berliners of all political persuasions joined hands in tearing down the wall and ultimately held what sources described as the world's largest free-floating street party and beer bash. So it was just a real beer bash when the wall came down. That was my takeaway as an 8-year-old. I wish I could have been there.
Had not heard it described as a beer bash, but I'm sure it was. And then we get this richly textured character, Gretchen.
Yeah.
He talks to her after this, and I guess he just kind of holds hands and walks with Gretchen. I'm not really sure what the character is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Or who it is, whether it's a real person. I don't know. But she says, "Ja, Forrest, und what did you study?" "Football," I says. "Ach." So Gretchen is Kathy meets the Katzenjammer Kid.
Yes, yeah, with a little Bill the Cat thrown in.
Yes.
But that's a punchline. That you get sort of it's not in there, but you get a 3 stars, and the conversation moves on, like the book moves on.
Right. Yeah.
So, well, yeah, but Gretchen is shockingly not a one and done character, just like the hog farm guy and all that. She plays a big role. But as you mentioned, you get these characters who are obviously real people, and their names are slightly tweaked, and they leave Germany because his work there is done. Everyone's angry at him. Sent to Saudi Arabia to fight in the Gulf War, led by their leader, General Norman Scheisskopf.
Ah, yes, this is why I find it funny.
And you know what that means, Mr. King? Did you look into the translation there?
I've been to Germany a few times. I know the word well. People yelling at me.
So yeah, so he took Schwarzkopf and turned it into shithead, which not only, most I think Americans know Scheiss or Scheisse in German, but it was a joke from Catch-22. There was a military leader called that.
Oh, well, he's steal from the best.
Sure, I guess so.
And he also, so Saddam Hussein, which is what George Herbert Walker Bush, who shows up in this, used to call him to irritate him, I guess. Everyone made fun of him for mispronouncing it, but he was doing it on purpose, I guess. Saddam. But in this, Saddam Hussein
4D chess.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Gets renamed as Saddam. As in damn you.
I glossed over that every single time until someone pointed it out to me.
Saddam and his Arab army, yes, it is spelled that way, I'm just reading it, are occupying the little country of Kuwait, which was known mostly for having a bunch of all wells. And I just thought, take that, butcher of Baghdad. He's calling you Saddam as you murder brides and, kill families and, ha, ha, ha. He's calling you damn.
Yeah.
How do you like that?
I mean, if Saddam, I'm going to say it, if Saddam wasn't done in by a Larry the Cable Guy routine, this might be the knockout blow, I think.
Yes.
It's very odd I mean, we can talk about this, but let me read you this line too, because this is sort of like what we talked about. Was it in this book where a character has funny names, or was that the last book? I can't even keep them straight. Where you give someone a funny name and then make fun of the name? Where you
oh yes, that's been in pretty much every book that we've done, but I think the last one had one. Yes,
but he says the Arab men wear them cloaks too, and most of them have on them little shoes with toes that curl up at the ends. Somebody says that is because when they is out in the desert and gotta take a shit, they can grab a hold of the ends of the shoes when they bend over, and it keeps them on balance. Whatever. So I mean, I just think he's sort of inventing a stereotype and then making a joke about that the same sort of way.
I don't know. I just wrote Facts King on it, and then I
Yes.
forgot to visit.
Yes. But so my question as I continued to read this, because it keeps coming up, is like, what was your takeaway about the author here? Like, what can you gain into the insight of how this author's worldview worked? Because as far as I'm concerned, it's just an absolute blank slate.
I feel like I think that he's trying to tell a tall tale a la your favorite author, Mark Twain.
Oh, sure.
And coming up so far short that it's barely recognizable as such. So all these little, that little thing is supposed to be, he'd say, well, that's what we do in the South. We make up things and, we make fun of them. And so I don't know. That would be my take if Winston Groom were here.
Yeah.
He would defend himself with that.
Because he does bring up so much of, real life events and every president from the 80s on, but it seems to have that sort of like almost South Parkian, like everybody's an idiot nihilism to it type of thing.
Yeah, yep. I noted that as well. Yes.
But he's also just, he appears to be other than writing these terrible books, he writes like military histories. So like in this, in this section where he's sort of like, Daryl Scheisskopf, it doesn't seem like that's his actual viewpoint. So it was very, very puzzling to, I think that this book, as we guessed, was probably written in under a month. So, you probably shouldn't judge him by that, but it's still just a very odd thing to not be able to understand where he's coming from with any of this.
Yeah, and I told you beforehand, and I believe this is true. This last section, I really feel like he was constantly checking the word count for the contractual obligation. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I did the Gulf War.
Right.
I'm still at 71,000 words. I need to hit 75 to make my contractual obligation. Where else?
Yep. Bump it up from novella to novel in terms of like a guy doing NaNoWriMo trying to hit his 50K.
Steals the pig back? Yeah, why not? Who cares?
Yeah, really. It's like Larry without the drunken joy.
Right. Wow, that's a sad thought.
Well, to keep it moving, he encounters Sue again because there's he goes to the markets of Saudi Arabia, I guess. He buys his son a sword, and then he sees a guy drinking Kool-Aid and playing a hurdy-gurdy, and then there's a big orangutan on the end of a rope dancing. So he's an old-timey organ grinder, and he says that he's staring into the face of old Sue from the good old days when I was a spaceman back in New Guinea, which is just sort of one of those scanner's head exploding sentences.
Yes, and what? By the way, you glossed over the shopkeeper and another shopkeeper joke.
Okay,
which is your favorite so far?
Oh,
was it buying the totem pole?
Oh, right. Yes, he gets...
Because that one was hilarious. This one was also very, very funny.
Totem pole, and what was the third thing he bought?
He bought a tuba? An alpenhorn or something?
German alpenhorn, yeah.
Yeah, all of them hilarious. So Lieutenant Dan shows up, so it's Dan with Sue on the end of the rope. And here's what he does, the 8th grade paper review. Tell him what you told him thing. Well, Gump, he says, I read in the newspapers you ain't wasted no time staying in the doghouse. You done tricked the Ayatollah, got throwed in jail for contempt in the Congress, caused a riot down at some religious theme park, got arrested and put on trial for swindling millions of people, was responsible, and it goes on.
Yeah.
It just rehashes the book Why can't Lieutenant Dan just say, instead of doing this, just go, boy, I've heard about you a lot lately. You've been in a heap of trouble.
Yeah,
I sure have, Dan.
Just do what he does every time and be like, where you been, you asshole?
You puckered butthole.
Yeah, he didn't do a podcast where he took a break for 2 weeks and then had to sort of like catch people up to where things were. But he does he says, all in all, you've had a fair few years. And I was, I lose track of these things, but I was like, it's been a few years. Is he going to be back in time for Little Forest College graduation at this point in time?
The time thing I'm very confused on, and when it gets towards the end, I have even more questions about it, about what's happening. But yeah, it does seem to be, since the start of the book, if you had to guess, how long did you think it was? I thought it was all in the same. I thought they were just tumbling over one another.
Yeah, and I assumed it was sort of a magical condensed version of time, just because, but we did have, like, when he was doing the hog farming being like, then 3 months later, then it was December, then, like, so he spent a year on the hog farm alone, I think. So when you look at it, critically, which I refuse to do, I guess it's probably all in there.
Yeah. Let me hit you with a Mark Twain humor here.
Okay.
Anyway, we gone over to the Casbah, or whatever they call it, just the dismissal, and got Sue a banana, and me and Lieutenant Dan ate soup that had toad larvae or something in it. He says, I sure wish these Arabs had some oysters, but I bet they ain't one within 1,000 miles of here. What? I asked. Arabs? No, you stupo, oysters, says Dan. Huh? Football coach humor?
Yeah. Bazooka Joe, I feel like, that ends with Mort, having surprise lines coming out of the top of his head.
Right. Exclamation points. And I honestly think, so this is the Dan, who I think was a beloved character in the movie, I'm guessing.
Yeah. They had a friendship. Like, that was what it was all about.
He is reduced to a character that I honestly think the Spice Girls have more depth of character.
Like a character in the Spice Girls movie?
No, the band, like Sporty Spice. I know more about Sporty Spice.
She was athletic, sure.
That Dan likes oysters. That's all I know about him. And he drills down on that in a way that I find it just embarrassing. Like, oh, stop it.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, it does pay off, quote unquote, but it wasn't into sort of, Usual Suspects mug dropping moment where you're like, you know what? He did mention oysters a while ago. It comes to a head and you're like, God damn, yeah, okay, we know. Like, the oyster count may be as many as asses in here.
Oh, that would be a good one for... get out your statistics and check that out.
Oh my God! What's your over/under on how many times oysters is mentioned in Gump and Company?
Oh my God! Well, he does start I'm going to say 49.
112. Shit is mentioned 125 times. So
yes,
that's incredible.
How about ass?
Ass, there could be like assume or something like that, but ass as the 3-letter combo is 148 times. So
good.
That's
excellent.
Stunning.
Jenny gets in on the ass thing, the ghost of Jenny.
Okay.
Got your ass in a sling? Aren't you going to go out and fight the Arabs tomorrow? Says beloved
right.
Ghost of Jenny.
Delicate, sweet Jenny.
Yes.
And her advice was to stick with Lieutenant Dan and listen to him. Listen real carefully, so that if the 112 mentions of oysters wasn't enough, then she's really like laying it on thick there. I just wanted to go back to because I was hung up on I missed sort of that Bazooka Joe joke because the soup that had toad larvae in it or something. I was just I had no idea whether that was a clumsy like tofu joke or just it seems like that is a joke that a guy in the 90s, that was like 60% of 90s humor was like, tofu, you want me to eat what? Like, but to make a joke about a weird foreign food that starts with toe but wasn't tofu, to me that was just, it was bad 90s hack humor, It wasn't good 90s hack humor about the airplane black box and all that.
Well, is it at all accurate? the Arab culture is known for eating soup with toad larvae in it?
It's.
I mean, think of the '90s stand-up with his, deconstructed jacket with the sleeves pushed up in the brick wall. I don't think he's going to go for.
Right.
I went over to Saudi Arabia, had that soup with toad larvae in it.
Yes, right.
The audience is like, wait, what?
Boo!
Don't they eat like roasted goat and stuff if you're going to make fun of them? I mean, is that...
Yeah.
Anyway.
Guys in the stands who are holding their, do the driveway park may material signs. Like you hold up a sign for Shakedown Street at a Grateful Dead show. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It just... I think it speaks to the 4-week period of writing the book is all that takes.
And now I'm going to raise the complaint. We're almost through chapter 11. We'll pick this up. That I had not noticed this, and once I noticed it, it's like when you have a professor or something who says or has a quirk in the speech, and then you notice it, and you can't not notice it anymore. And then you tell your friend so that it bugs him too. Like, you notice how every time in the middle of a sentence, he'll like wipe the side of his mouth and then cough. I'm like, damn it, why did you tell me that? It's the so that's what we did thing that he ends. So we done that. Mm-hmm. So we get look forward to kicking Saddam's asses out of Kuwait, and that's what we done. Then a couple pages later, we're going to go to Iraq to whip his heathen ass. So that's what we did.
Yep.
Hell no, says Dan, blah, blah, blah. And let's keep it. So that's what we did. Ends the chapter with it.
Yes.
I hate that. And I don't understand it. What is that a joke? Is that, what is that?
A dumb guy telling a story, I suppose, like in the style of a fifth grade, book report type of thing.
But does he need it every 3 paragraphs?
No.
Okay, so it is word count filling.
Yes, I think so. Although, the fact that it does come up so often, I feel like that's just about how every chapter ends, like with some sort of, it's not foreshadowing. It's just drilling down on what they've announced their plans are to do. So,
and had this happened, was this something that I just missed before? Because it seems to come very, very frequently now till the end of the book.
Yeah, I feel like it was. I think it happened enough in the early stages that I sort of just stopped noticing it because it was the opposite of like your classmate calling attention to the professor's tick. It was just like filler that I learned to speed read over.
Okay, all right.
I liked the final one of those is the one that ends the chapter, but it starts with this line from America's beloved hero. They're asking about when they should, how they should get to Baghdad. He says, "What about you, Gump?" Sergeant Krantz asks. "You got an opinion?" "I don't give a shit," I says. And that was the truth. So hopefully that's a line that they pick up in the Indian version of the movie.
Yes, or if, Tom Hanks wants to do his swan song Oscar movie, revisit the character, really up the shit and ass count, I would be happy to see that. Chapter 12.
Yeah, so this is the one that starts with them being as welcome as a tank full of bastards at a family reunion.
Yes. And we get Forrest, he says, handing me the pistol. "Take over and keep this sumbitch covered. And if he makes any false moves, blow his ass away." I'm just keeping count of the ass for you.
Yes.
I feel that's my duty.
Well, they're talking about they're going to go capture Saddam because they stop at a gas station to refill the tank, which whatever, it doesn't at this point in time, it doesn't matter, but it seems unlikely that you just pull into your regular mobile with a tank and fill it up. But they see a man gets out of an armored vehicle, a big bushy mustache and wearing green fatigue uniform and a little red beret. Everybody be sort of kowtowing to him. So that's a word that Forrest Gump knows. Mm-hmm. And it's identified as Saddam Hussein himself. And then he stands in front of them with his hands on his hips and starts laughing to his guards and flunkies. "See, I think this is the sergeant says, I told you, you ain't got nothing to fear." Oh, sorry.
This is Saddam.
Saddam, yeah. I told you ain't got nothing to fear, because I think Sue is poking his head out of the tank because the orangutan has come with them. You ain't got nothing to fear from those American soldiers. Look what we got here driving one of their best tanks. One's a cripple and the other guy's so fucking ugly he almost looks like an ape. At this, Sue got a pained look on his face. So I just, Tony Danza's Going Ape wished it had a scene that clever or poignant.
I've never seen that. We have to have a watch party.
That would be fun, yeah. I put myself on the line for maybe getting punched for that, but we'll see.
Yes. I forgot to mention, by the way, the reason that Sue, the orangutan, the male orangutan, pretty hilarious. A boy named Sue. And then...
wow, I didn't even realize that was the obvious...
yeah.
God.
Yes, I know. I hate it more. Lieutenant Dan, they just tagged along, and he makes a mention of that. Like, nobody minded that they just like, hey, why is there... That's a two-man operation. Why do you have four guys in that tank? One of them an orangutan, and the other a man with no legs. And they just said, no, nobody seemed to care.
Right.
Which I guess is, again, he would say, that's a dig at the Army, right? Because they don't care, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why they're there.
General Scheitskopf was too busy, eating and doing a CNN interview with, like, Wolfen Blitzdie. Got him.
Check. He's roasted.
Larry, a single tear rolls down Larry's face as he's not mentioned in the book and his colleague is.
Let's get back to the rich character of Lieutenant Dan. When I asked him if I could have a last meal of some fried oysters, he claimed he didn't have any. Whoever heard of a man that runs a whole country couldn't get himself some oysters if he wanted to? Dan, the character's just like, you're getting a sense of it. It's like Russian literature. It's it's just the internal dialogue, and you get a sense of who he actually is.
Right.
He likes oysters.
You sense that the man he was before he lost his legs and the man he is now, like he used to kind of like oysters and now he really likes oysters. So it's the trauma's been, you feel it yourself as a reader. But he just also talked about how they can't get him. There probably isn't one within 1,000 miles of here. So.
Now, we also get a joke from General Norman Scheisskopf.
Okay.
My orders, says the general, kind of looking around to make sure nobody's watching, were specifically not to capture that butthole you got in that tank. And now what have you done? You're going to get my ass in a sling with the president himself. So General Shithead gives us a butthole and an ass.
Yeah, where there's smoke, there's fire.
I was very happy.
But they captured Saddam because they got into a trademark Benny Hill chase, but with the Iraqi army, and it was provoked by Sue popping up, taking a slop bucket, which have played a pretty prominent role in here. There's the hog slopping and slop buckets. Throwed the whole load of shit right in the guards' faces, and then they took off at top speed, leaving the guards behind, all gagging and flailing around and holding their noses. So that was sort of how the war was won type of thing. But I have no idea. I didn't understand. He just sort of hand waves that away, like my orders are not to capture that guy, without any. If that's a commentary, I don't. That's a lot of credit to assign to here. I don't really know what they're trying to do.
I think that he just decided he was going to, roast the first Gulf War, and then the best way to do it, like an airplane movie, where you have Saddam Hussein or
Hot Shots Part 2,
Hot Shots Part 2 kind of a thing, was to get the guy with the mustache and the beret, pretty easy to parody. But then he realized, people know that he was not captured or killed,
I guess so, yeah.
I guess we just have to have Norman Shithead say. No, take him back. Because I didn't see the point of that either, other than that, it is just a Benny Hill thing. Like, what? Take him back? Rub their eyes and what?
Sure, it was just sort of missing Scheisskopf, red-faced, throwing his hat down on the ground and stomping it up and down while balling his fists, I guess.
Then we get a joke from Saddam. That old fart, Saddam says, has caused me a lot of trouble. I hope he roasts in hell, has to eat tripe and pickled pig's feet for the rest of eternity. To which Lieutenant Dan says, I can see you are a man of great Christian charity. To this, Saddam has no response. I don't know. With jokes like this, go back to that "What's time to a pig" stuff. That was better.
Sure,
better jokes. I assume this comes from some old joke or something.
Yeah, that does harken back to your 30s joke book or whatever you have,
right.
Or a New Yorker cartoon. I don't know, Larry King. I mean, I guess that's why maybe he was quoted about the first book, but not this one. Well, as they're driving him back, Saddam, to drop him off in the thing, they observe that he has ordered that the Iraqis have lit the oil wells, all wells in Kuwait on fire to sort of But he says it struck us all as a very sour grapes thing to do, which is a glib way to describe the horrors of the war.
Yes. Saddam, though... oh, wait. No, this is somebody else. Sorry. But we get a lot of... I'm just keeping track of the ass.
Sure,
Sorry.
yep.
On your way, you degenerate turd, says Sergeant Krantz, and he give old Saddam a big kick in the ass. Last we seen of him, he was jogging across the desert trying to cover himself in front and behind. So a lot of implied ass and wang there.
Yeah.
So turd, ass, wang, and ass again.
And that's a very, those 90s style movies we were talking about. Like you could picture him running in sort of sped up film, doing a sort of zigzag through the desert, covering his, front and ass back to back as the lens does the sort of Porky Pig in on him as he's running away.
Reminded me of, Dangerous Man? Was that the movie that had the guy in the desert?
That's exactly what I'm thinking of here. Right. Holding maybe a leaf up in front of him or something.
Yes.
Speaking of Porky Pig, they did this joke again because they did this with the I Told Ya, but when they had Saddam before they took him back, Sergeant Krantz brought Saddam Hussein a big old plate of greasy pork chops. But he say he don't care for any, so hungry or not, off we went. So that's they don't eat pork. Can you imagine? That's
he's getting the pickled pig's feet earlier, tripe.
Yeah, good stuff.
Funny stuff.
As they start returning back, so they've gone across the desert, a trip that Forrest refers to. I believe he called it kind of boring. Yep, kind of boring, which is you don't say as we do it for a third time. We're doing it the fourth time. They realize, based on their tank's screen, he says their instrument screen, they look at it and realize that an aircraft is locked onto them, and they think it's one of theirs. So I don't know what's really telling them that from their display. But he says, uh-oh, Dan says again. What? They have fired? At us? Who else? Dan says. He had begun to spin the tank around when there was a huge explosion that literally blew the tank apart. And then they're trying to pull them out. Sue in the back, he's pinned down. He gets Dan's arm and he's trying to pull him out, but it's sorry, I'm pinned down. Forrest, we've had ourselves a hell of a war, haven't we? Hurry, Dan, grab hold of my hand, I screamed. See you around, pal, is all he says. And then the tank blowed up. So I guess it was not literally blew up the first time.
Yes, it blew apart the second time.
Got it.
It literally blew the tank apart. All of us is thawed every which way, and the cabin is filled with smoke and fire.
So I guess the cabin's technically a separate part of the tank, since the tank was literally blowed up.
I guess everything, but I don't know how you keep a tank's cabin intact when the tank itself has been blown apart.
Right.
I'm having trouble picturing that physically.
Right, and you're pinned down by things inside of it as it's blown apart. And those sentences are maybe 10, 11, 12 sentences apart. So it's a hard thing to screw up that royally.
Yes.
And his farewell to Dan and Sue, as he says, all the way back across the desert that night, I felt so terrible. I couldn't even bring myself to cry. Two of the best friends a man ever had, and now they are gone too. It is a loneliness almost too sad to believe. They're assing around in heaven now, I guess.
I also thought, he must hate his own character of Lieutenant Dan. He's humiliated him before. He was filled with crap and he was about to die, right? He had to go
milky
to Walter
eyes,
Reed.
He can't see, yeah.
Yeah, but now he blows him up and then claims that Forrest was just as good a friend to sue the orangutan as Lieutenant Dan. And then kicking him after he's dead. Fact was, there wasn't enough left of Dan and Sue to fill a can of beans. Just hates his character, Dan.
Right. For a guy who was, I think you could describe him as being pretty much, he was in the book. It does seem like he heaps a lot onto him at the end. And I guess throughout the journey for someone who is really just a foil there to, live homelessly and go to the hospital.
Right.
I don't know. But Sergeant Kranz sums it up thusly, which I found very exciting. I'm going to miss him, Sergeant Kranz says. We had ourselves a hell of a ride. And so that's probably the closest we're ever going to get to an actual hell of a rig in the book. It's in a book we read itself.
Oh, so close.
It was so close. We had a hell of a RI. So,
man, somebody just write a book and put that in just for us.
Right, please.
We'll do it.
I don't know. He sees Jenny, I guess. They're leaving on the plane to the States with their ashes, and she's there in the seat next to him, like a gremlin that William Shatner's seeing or something. But they don't talk. They just sort of she sits there to keep him company on the way home.
She doesn't even say ass or show him her ass.
No, it doesn't.
A wasted opportunity.
Her ass to poop on the drink cart or anything like that.
Oh
man, that was a 90s thing. That could have been something he initiated.
That guy, who people knew his name. He was a prominent businessman. In case people don't know what we're talking about. True story. A disgruntled drunk person on an airplane took a dump on the drink cart, and
in one of the greatest feats of
yes,
number 2 performance you could ever imagine.
Because you have to, in your own head, you have to go through the steps of how did this man pull this off?
Right. It's there was that scene in the Jackass movie where a guy walked into a hardware store and did that, which again requires some performance under pressure. But this guy he might have inspired that whole TV show.
Yes, but that actual guy is he's gone. We lost him a few years ago.
Yeah. We lost him. Yes, he was. He got his own picture in the Oscar in memoriam reel, maybe the Emmys, because he was probably late night talk show material for a month after that.
Oh, speaking of ass and poop, good for him, a true hero. Chapter 13.
Yes, chapter 13.
Let's just march on. Yeah.
Yeah. He has at some point in time gotten a letter from Jenny's mom, Mrs. Curran, who says that she's getting old and she can't look after this boy anymore, which little Forrest has to be about the age of getting a driver's license by this point in time. So
I think she says he's starting to be a teenager or something like that.
That's a very weird way to put it.
Which I guess is a joke, but I think that's what it was. He's starting to be a teenager.
But he paints a real good picture here as as the chapter begins. It was a cloudy and gray day when I got back to Mobile. I got to Mrs. Curran's house, and she was sitting inside in a rocking chair, knitting a doily or something. So it's like we're there.
Yeah, I liked how that is at once sort of like insulting. She's just she's some old lady. But then he also just takes it back or something. Like, I can't be bothered to eat. She's beneath contempt.
Right.
She's just old. She's, yeah.
Right.
She just sat there exuding old lady smell or whatever.
Right. She's like an unattractive whistler's mother. And yeah, because knitting a doily is about, that's I think feel like a stereotype for old people to do. But yeah, just dismisses that out of hand. Yes. It could be something even more boring and stupid. I don't know.
So little Forrest does show up, and I'm very puzzled by this. Only thing is, he is wearing an earring in his ear, which leads me to wonder what sort of underwear he has got on. What?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's your 60s football coach kind of joke yet again. Them guys has gotten long hair. What kind of underwear is they wearing?
Okay.
Like ladies' underwear. I think it's a gay joke essentially.
A little bit of a self-own, though, right? To use another loathsome phrase. With it makes me wonder what you are.
You're wondering about whether your son
Your
is
son
wearing
is underpants. Okay, kind of circles back on you, but that's fine.
Yeah, and you feel like, no matter what, Forrest is, obviously in this version, he's that I don't give a shit kind of guy. But he does, he comes into contact with a lot of people from various walks of life, and that was in the movie. He was, sort of accepting, I guess, is the in a sort of innocent kind of way. Like the famous line for the movie is like, "Sorry for ruining your Black Panther party," but you hung out with the Black Panthers and stuff. So it's a very odd jar. I think a lot of listeners wrote in to say that was a very weird part of the book. So.
Right.
It would be great if it played out and Forrest was like, "Yeah, I'm wearing a pair of grandma's panties. Like, what do you? Yes. You've been gone for 3 years. Like, what do you want me to say?"
Yeah, which brings me to this. I think he would defend this, but so Forrest basically does like, "Whatever, man, I don't care," and walks away. And then he says, "Ain't nothing like a warm welcome home, is it?" Sarcastically. Like, you couldn't have been expecting one, would you? You've been assing around for his entire life,
right? Gone to prison, caused major disasters, like
yeah, worked at a biblical theme park. You didn't have to do that. You could have been with Forrest during all of it. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it read like a lost verse of Cats in the Cradle. I thought it was just like, "So you're back, huh? Looks that way. For how long this time? Well, way I got it figured for good. What you gonna do? That one I ain't figured out yet. I wouldn't have thought so," he says, and goes back to his room. My boy was just like me.
Can I borrow the keys? My boy is just like me.
What I really like, Dad, is to ass around in town. Speaking of assing around, this is he starts to lying. He starts lying to Granny and Little Forrest about what he's doing. He says, "I told him I done found work so I could support him, but the truth was I begun using up my separation pay from the army to pay the bills and spent my days at a soda fountain drinking Coca-Cola and eating Fritos." So if that doesn't constitute assing around, I don't know what does.
Textbook assing around. Actually, in the dictionary, there's a picture of that next to assing around.
Yeah, he also probably read the comic books until the guy chased him away with a broom, saying, "This ain't a library."
So here is where I start wondering how old he is and what is the time, because he wants to get a job. He says, "Seems there weren't no big market for ditch digging at the moment, and besides, one of the bosses told me I was too old for such work. We need up-and-coming young fellers who are looking to make a career of this, not some old fart who is just wanting enough work to buy a quart of jug wine," was the way he put it. How old? An old fart? He was just the star quarterback, right?
Right, 3 years ago.
3 years ago. How old?
He's that's the condensed time for him. I have no idea, because he went to Vietnam. So I mean, I felt like we tried to piece that together and just got very confused. But even if you consider, late career, like putting together a Art Monk, like 37 or something. Now he's 40, but he's still a large, strong man who is just in the army.
Yeah, he can run, and he obviously is incredibly strong and tall, right? 6'8".
Yes, I think it was 6'7" or 6'8". Ivan Drago. That's what we've been talking about the whole time.
Yes.
I don't know. I think that's another Bazooka Joe comic being like, no, you can't just do this as day work. We need men who want to do this as careers. No. Right.
So then he gets the idea. This is where it all comes together now to get oysters, and here's how it goes.
Oh my God.
Can a man make a living catching oysters? I asked. Sometimes. Depends on a lot of things. Pollution gets bad. They close down the beds. Then there's storms and hurricanes. And, of course, your competition. Competition, who is that? All of them fellers out there trying to catch oysters. They don't take kindly to someone new coming here. Why did you bring it up then, you horrible old buzzard? It sounds like an awful idea.
Yeah.
He was trying to talk him into catching oysters, and then he's like, oh, can you make a living? Probably not, no. Pollution is terrible, and storms, and people will try to kill you for doing it.
Sure, yes. And then Forrest says, I remember him that way. It was too true. The oysterman was not people to fool around with, at least back in the old days. So maybe that was even in the first book.
So you know about oysters then. Well, what game are we playing here?
Right, that's like being in the, I don't know, the printer paper business, and then not knowing that printing newspaper was just as popular. That sort of thing. He was an extremely successful shrimp guy, and so at some point in time, probably kept an eye on the oyster beds, because the businesses are going to be slightly related if pollution and storms and pirates come into the whole thing.
Yes, you're probably going to run across the oystermen in your line of work.
Right,
probably knows a little something about it.
You know what you should do is make basketball sneakers. Oh, is that as profitable as tennis shoes? Like, well, son, you've never looked into that? Wow. But the person who's telling him this, the person who's giving him this advice, is Bubba's father.
Yes, Bubba's daddy.
He says it just like occurred to him that he's got to visit him, so he just gets off the bus and starts to talk to him. And so I was reading this, and I was sort of thinking like, oh, well, this is another invocation of the trope of like the Green Mile, where like the magical black guy is giving him this idea, or it's an old time honored, very 90s and previous type of trope. But then I was like, I forgot. A listener wrote in to say that in the original book that he didn't think that Bubba was black because he went to Alabama in the 60s or whatever. It wasn't integrated. And they quickly dismissed that notion through the oystermen showing up and saying racist stuff to him. But the listener who wrote into that said that I'll just read his email now, that the last section makes clear Bubba was black. I still don't think he was in the first book, but it's not too surprising as retcons go. When Arthur C. Clarke wrote 2010, it was more a sequel to 2001 than the movie 2001 the movie than the 2001 the book, since that's the version of events more people were familiar with, just sort of like The Shining movie and book. I also feel Gump and Company's Lieutenant Dan gained attributes from his movie counterpart. I don't remember it coming up in the first book that his family had a long history of being in wars, for instance, which it's a memorable part of the movie. It says Lieutenant Dan had someone die in every major American war, and it shows, Gary Sinise in Revolutionary War makeup, Civil War thing, dying, and so he's upset that he didn't die. That Forrest saved him in the Vietnam War. So there we just have to... it's an interesting turn of events if that has just been a retcon here, because it comes up very strongly that he is a black man in this last couple chapters.
It propels the last third of the book. Yeah. Yes, it's like a big part of it. We also get down and dirty with oystering. That's going to be again the rest of the book as well. And I was surprised he goes to market to sell his oysters. Time they tally everything up, I done made $42.16, which even he admits, which struck me as a little low for upwards of 400 oysters. So that's his business. That's a very good day of him. What does he call it? Plucking? No, what is? I don't know. There's a term for pulling the oysters up.
Tonging?
Tonging. But it put me in mind of. I'll just bring this up because it's my son's favorite line from Napoleon Dynamite. It reminded me of that. It's Uncle Rico says, well, you were out there playing patty cake with your friend Pedro. Uncle Rico is making $120. That's what it reminded me of. Just like, whoa, all this work and he made $42.
Pride in a small amount of money.
Yes, and so he's going to go through hell to get that $42 a day, which it turns out that's the most I think he ever makes until he sets up his company.
Right. It's like it's like one of those grinding video games where you have to like do enough of the menial labor to then buy your first upgrade, and then the upgrade helps you make more money, essentially like that.
Right.
There was this line about how, as he starts this, he says, It seemed to me pretty ironic, me being in the oyster business after old Lieutenant Dan was all the time talking about getting some good oysters to eat. That is many things. I do not think it is ironic. I think it's Just like we talked about earlier, it is a laying it on thick and then making jokes about it.
Yes, it is Alanis Morissette ironic at best, I think. But he gets in bad with the as promised, Smitty. Smitty Miller, which I assumed his last name was Smith, and therefore
right.
Smitty. But his name is, and he calls him Mr. Miller. So
wow, bizarre.
That's a strange little thing. But he gets in trouble with him, and then he reports back to Forrest, Little Forrest, as he calls him. But he's big, right?
He's starting to become a teenager.
So that's
wearing women's underwear and messing around with stuff like that.
I guess that's a joke, but I wanted to ask you what's your impression of Little Forrest? He's on the cover of the book, rich character, worth a cover illustration. What do you? Well, I mean, all we get of him is him going like, "Oh, you're dumb. Shut up."
Yeah. Well,
walking through with an earring and his grandma's panties on.
That's what I would have agreed with you until now. But now we get this stuff that makes him sound cool as hell. He catches him smoking a cigarette in the bathroom.
Yes.
He's gambling. He's like playing poker with kids at school, and he's such a good card counter that he's fleecing all of them out of their milk money and stuff. I was wondering what the book would be like if it was told from his perspective, like the Twilight book we read that was told from Edward's perspective.
Right. Yes.
And then we got this moment, which he says he sort of sets Forrest down and gives him a talkie to, being like, settle down, like you can't be sneaking in and smoking cigarettes. He says, I can look after myself. He says, I can see that, like you looking after yourself by hiding a 6-pack of beer in your toilet tank, which I believe this is something that Carl Welzine, a.k.a. Dad Boner, did at his work. At his work job. So I think
okay,
the cool as hell thing is taken to the next level here. So,
you think Dad Boner was a fan of Winston Groom?
Maybe I should reach out. I'm confident that's something that happened. If it didn't, it's definitely something he could have done. But I believe he kept some cold ones in the toilet tank.
It strikes me as also just a 6-pack hidden in there. 6-pack doesn't. That's small potatoes, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to go through a 6-pack, especially if you're Dad Boner. You're going to go through that,
right? Yeah,
easily. So no reason to hide it. Just drink it all at once.
I guess it probably keeps it cool to some degree. I don't know. I don't know. I'd say if things had worked out and you had to go to Gump and Company, that hiding a 6-pack in the toilet tank and drinking it would have been a fun thing to do, but. I'm jaded by the fact that we never got you to that level.
Yeah. Yes. But so Forrest Jr., Little Forrest, who is, I guess, 17. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess he could be 15. I don't know. Undetermined. He yells at Forrest for all the terrible presents that he'd sent from all over. And I just wish Forrest had replied, yeah, son, those were terrible presents, but you have to understand that the purchase of each one represented an opportunity to sort of tell old terrible football coach jokes and get paid by the word for them. So they were doing their work there.
Right. That'd be the it breaks the waterworks for Little Forrest. Like, old terrible football jokes. I love old terrible football jokes. That's when they hug and Harry Chapin winks from outside the window.
Oh, Harry Chapin. What does he look like? Does anyone know what Harry Chapin looks like?
Oh, I mean, if I'm imagining, 70s coffee house beard, sort of John Lennon-y glasses, maybe a beret.
Oh, instead of beret, can I swap out one of those Greek fisherman's caps? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Blue with like the embroidery around the front of it.
Yes. No, I think we're completely wrong. He looks like, oh boy, got sort of longish hair. I don't know. Looks kind of like Joe Piscopo. I don't know.
Kids.
But so what he does is he says, like, listen, boy, like you need to straighten up, and I don't like you giving me any sass mouth, and says this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you, and gives him a big old spanking.
That struck me as odd. I assume that's supposed to be, some sort of joke or something, him spanking a full-grown boy, but it struck me as odd. I wanted to get past it and not mention it ever again.
It's a good opportunity maybe to check on the underwear if he does the old...
oh, yeah. Now you don't have to wonder anymore.
But then it was an odd moment, and we get the result of it, though, which is that it works. He said, over the next days and weeks, I noticed a marked improvement in his behavior, and I hope he noticed that I noticed that too. So the moral of Gump Co. is hit your kids because it works.
There it is, summed up. Hit your kids. And then he throws in with him, I guess, in the oyster business. Bidness. Sorry,
yeah,
man.
wow.
God, I'm
Come on,
losing. Yes, I'm all over the place.
Let's get a bidness count.
Yes. Okay, you do that.
64.
He named the truck. I'll quote him. I named the truck Wanda in honor of all the Wandas I have known. And that was a moment I got a little teary, thinking of the strip club owner and the pig at the National Zoo. So those are all the Wandas, I think. I think I've tallied up all the Wandas he's known.
So, yeah, as far as we know, it would be great if he did have a beloved Wanda from the first book that was like a aunt or his mom or something that just gets arrested with the strip club owner and the pig.
Sure. So Wanda the truck, yeah, and they start oystying together.
Mm-hmm. He told Little Forest's main advice was, if you could ask an oyster where it wanted to live, it'd probably say in a cesspool, which struck me as would be a fun children's book, as the oyster who lived in the cesspool. He runs away and then he discovers that the cesspool was where he wanted to be all along.
Right. And then Little Forest participates in this book. I don't think it does a lot of very serious, stroke your chin and really good satire. This is really singeing the targets here. But he asks him what the war was about. Mm-hmm. Well, they told us it was account of Saddam Hussein done attack the people in Kuwait. That's so? That's what they said. So what do you really think? A lot of people said it was about oil. Oil, yeah, I read that too. I reckon they died for all, was what I had to say about that.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the butthole references here.
I like that they do go for one, maybe one. Is this the only sort of quote, heavy quote, profound moment? And they pick, the one sign that everybody had at the one protest I went to in college because my friend was in town was coming, and so I was like, oh, I'll go meet you there. No blood for oil was the most common thing you'd say there, and that's what we get, the one sort of turn to the camera moment in this book.
David Brent turning to the camera. Satire. That's all I got for chapter 13.
Well, yeah. So it ends with he sort of has said that his oars have gone missing, or they put a hole in his boat. Mm-hmm. And he sort of just deals with those problems and moves on. He replaces everything. He doesn't, be like, oh, I'm Ivan Drago, I'm going to go kick the shit out of Smitty. But the first time he takes Little Forest here, he says that someone punched a hole in their tires, and there's a guy standing across the street, and Forrest says, do you know who did this? And he says, no, but tell your friends that Smitty says hello. Was all I could manage. And then Little Forrest just says his friends don't like me oystering down here. And then he says, that guy had an oyster knife in his hand. You suppose he was the one who did it? And I wasn't sure if an oyster knife was going to be capable of puncturing a car tire. They're sort of a blunt jabbing thing. But it's another, once Little Forrest has had finally come to terms with his dad, they've had the moment he got hit and now he loves him again. He now shows up and just sort of does this wuss passive resistance routine with these guys who are trying to ruin them. Was an odd moment. He gets frustrated with them and goes and changes the car tires in silence.
Yeah, I don't know whether they're going for Clint Eastwood or something, quietly enduring these little humiliations, but he's actually a hardened war vet. you know, he's got the tattoo on his arm of Special Forces, and we're going to have to wait until Act 2 to see, you know, see him actually retaliate.
John Rambo.
I think he's going a little bit for that. But I don't understand that. And also he's losing quite a bit of money, right? Because he says like they poke a hole in his boat, they sink his boat.
Yeah, he has to put
steal his oars. He's losing a lot of money, and it's $42 at most that he can get.
And keep in mind, the first time he interacted with Smitty, he called Bubba's father, the character of his beloved war buddy who died in his arms, a terrible racial slur, and he didn't opt to defend the honor that way for a guy who's been in many beer bashes and brawls and throwdowns and dust ups and whatever. He just is like, well, please don't ruin my oars again, sir.
You refer to Smitty? Oh, Mr. Miller.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Smitwick Miller.
So that's the end of that chapter. And then chapter 14.
Oh, boy.
They shut him down.
Then one day it happened. They shut us down. This comes out of nowhere.
Yes. Pollution in the water.
Mm-hmm. And it says pollution. Was it caused by a storm? No, just pollution.
I don't know.
No, just general pollution. But then that gives Little Forrest an idea, which he says, suppose we can convince the state fish and wildlife people that any oysters we harvest is going to be free of pollution. How are we going to do that? Move them. Move what? The oysters. Oysters thrive in pollution, but you can't eat them because it'll make you sick. We all know that. But according to the research I've done, an oyster purges itself completely every 24 hours. And they missed an opportunity to have him be like, I read one of them encyclopedias you had, like, that you had been selling. No mention of where he's doing this research or like, on the newfangled internet, Dad, type of thing.
I also read that Arabs have curled toes because when they bend over to take a shit in the desert.
Oh, Little Forrest. Yeah, it was in Microsoft Encarta, Dad.
So they get permission from Fish and Wildlife, and they start moving the oysters.
I'd just like to get to drill down into that part, because you made it seem like they just sort of went in and got permission from, you glossed over the whole thing that happened here. He says,
sure.
Here's how it is. Somehow we managed to convince the State Fish and Wildlife Service that our oysters wasn't going to be no threat to nobody. So that's the whole story there. It's the Klein Prince fight of
yes.
I don't know what happened, but somehow we won.
Somehow we did it. Okay.
I'm not going to complain that he glossed over the petitioning the Fish and Wildlife Commission to relocate an oyster bed, but it is pretty bad storytelling.
Missed opportunity. Think how many inside jokes of fish and wildlife red tape that you would have to cut through. That would get old Larry just slapping his thigh.
Submitting things in triplicate.
Yes. We get a deep dive into how they do it, but the highly successful company. And remember the old lady who was knitting a doily or whatever? Mm-hmm. Remember her?
Yeah.
She gets hired as the receptionist for the new company, and says she feels totally rejuvenated and don't want to go to the Poe house no more. She has even bought herself a new Cadillac convertible that she drives around with the top down, wearing a sleeveless sundress and a bonnet. Who is this woman? How old is she?
Yes. She's a rapping granny or something now.
I think that's what he's going for, right?
Yeah.
That someone is. She drives by in the Cadillac, and someone lowers his sunglasses and goes, "Woo, woo!
Hop in, Sonny. I'm gonna haul ash to Lollapalooza."
Hey, good looking. I'll be back to pick you up later. So we get a rapping granny. That's cool.
Yeah, and I realized the whole thing because a couple paragraphs before that, Little Forrest is like, yeah, we got the little oysters are called spats. We put them on barges. Here's this like type of barge you use. Here's the treatment plant. Blah 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 blah. But it was like, all right, like he clearly just wanted to like go on a fact finding tour of like Cape Cod or Prince Edward Island so he could like write off that vacation. He's like, well, I gotta learn how the oyster business works. So. That would not surprise me in the slightest. Like that's what I mean. That's what the Mr. person did, right? She wanted to go to Croatia or wherever they were, Albania, I guess. So that was
I think she just picked it and said,
Dan Brown in Seville type of thing.
Right, exactly. Like now I'm going to just I'm really going to lay oystering on you in a hard way because I learned about it. Yeah.
The lawyer's like, you got to put in that they're called spats when they're babies. Otherwise, like, that's not going to qualify you for this tax write-off.
Yeah. Who's the actor? The British guy, My Left Foot, and all of that. What's his name?
Daniel Day.
Daniel Day-Lewis. He, I guess, when he was doing some role, to take on the character, he was a guy who lived in a cabin that he'd built or something. So Daniel Day-Lewis built his own cabin, learned how to to go out in the woods and hew logs and strip them, and built his cabin. It's like, all right, just show up on day one and go, who am I now?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, but then again, he didn't have, maybe his groom's dad didn't buy him encyclopedias. He didn't have Encarta. He had to go and
he had to live it, man.
Do the tonging himself. So they named their business Gump Company. So that's where the
Gump Co comes from.
Right, exactly. But you're an oyster guy. I love a good oyster too. Hard to imagine a less appealing name when you sidle up and ask for a dozen of something, because they've all got names like, Blue Point, Wellfleet, what are some other ones, like Stellar Bay type of thing, just give me some of them, Gump and Cumps.
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, these Gump and Cumps look awfully fresh.
Yeah, I feel like oyster names, isn't that like weed names or something, where it feels like they're just, the name is supposed to sell it all.
Yes, exactly.
It's kind of like how neighborhoods get rebranded. Nobody calls, the neighborhood the Old Dump neighborhood or something.
Dumpington Acres type of thing.
You call it like Crackleberry Hills or something.
Yeah, weed names are like the opposite of that. Weed names are just like Thunderfuck 3000, Purple Lemon Skywalker Haze.
It's like hot sauces, I always thought, took a very strange road to remind you that they burn on the way out kind of thing. Yes. It's like, ass on fire, molten shit. That's terrible. Yeah. I'm eating this.
Yeah, triple flush XXX.
Gross.
Yeah. So that's more in line with what the Gump and Cump is, I think, for the oysters.
Right.
But then we get into what is like the primary focus of this lengthy final chapter of the book, which is
very lengthy.
A getting the band back together montage, which I think nobody wanted and nobody asked for, certainly, but he sort of goes through all the chapters and sort of ticks every single box where if you were a named character in this book, he's going to bring you on board to help run the oyster business.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you were so inclined to see like a Doobie Brothers concert or something. There's like 60 guys on stage, and then, in the second to the last song, they're like, it's time to meet the band. Like, no, you don't have to do that. No, seriously.
Right.
During this drum solo, during this little break, and everybody's vamping.
On tambourine.
On 14th guitar. That's what we get. And we get, it was good to see Mrs. Hopewell back.
Yeah.
And here's the joke. His wife, Mrs. Hopewell, blah, blah, blah. We ain't had no problems with the State Fish and Wildlife Services since she got the job. Every time she have a meeting with them fellers in her office, I hear her Chinese gong sound and know that all is well. She's a whore.
Right. Yeah. Finally, I reject my previous statement about not wanting to see what went into getting these fish and wildlife permits. Oh,
yes.
Yes.
Gong. Oh, we know what's going on.
That's bizarre. Yeah. And her husband comes to work for them well too. He's in charge of R&D, and he's, I guess, forgiven the $1 million bounty on his head.
Yeah, I mean, Elaine shows up.
Elaine
from Elaine's Restaurant in New York
of course,
City.
yes, right, yeah.
Side of, if you are not a Patreon person, you missed then my story of Elaine's and Tony Danza. So
yes.
sign on and go back and listen to that.
Yeah, she's like the main buyer of many of their oysters, so it could be canon that when you went there, if you had oysters, they could have been Gumpany.
And are you ready to laugh again? Because I'm going to read the name of his law firm.
God damn it.
The venerable old New York law firm, Dewey, Screw 'em and How, represent us in our legal matters. Really? You had to return to that?
Yes.
Like, the first time I saw it, I didn't roll my eyes hard enough at you.
It's a decent chance he forgot that it was in there. He's like, I know what'll wow him. It's been 2 days since I wrote that, chapter 8 chapters ago.
We all know a dad who he has a thing that he says, and there's just no way he's not going to say it when something is lawyers, huh? You should book my turn. Do we screw him? And how? Like, yeah, Dad. Okay, just let him do it. He's got to do it.
I had a guy.
He has to say it.
I had a guy I went to high school with. This was during high school, I think, maybe in college too. But every time you'd bring up this one girl, a very nice girl, he would be like, "Oh yeah, her most awkward goodnight kiss I ever had," just to like bring up the fact that he had kissed this girl. And
wow.
And I would be like, hey, you guys ever notice that this guy always, anytime you mention her, he'll act like it's the first time he's saying that. And one time I'd mentioned that to a friend, and it then happened again with like a week of that, and that friend called him out on it. It was very satisfying. Imagine this sentence going in blind to Gump and Company. If I just been like, here's the book we're going to read, and here's one of the sentences from it.
Sure.
I was going to try to hire the Ayatollah to run our moral and spiritual relations department, but he gone and died, so I got the Reverend Jim Baker for the job.
Oh God.
Yeah, even if you didn't know what the book title was or what that it was Forrest Gump, that would just be a good way to sum up the idiocy of this one in one sentence.
It continues. I have offered. This is where I just wrote, I'm glad this book is coming to an end. I have offered jobs to old Saddam Hussein and General Scheisskopf, and they wrote back nice letters saying they had other weenies to roast. Go to hell. So both of them wrote back and said, I have other weenies to roast?
That's a good point.
Okay. Oh, Larry's loving it.
Well, speaking of great writing, just like we had the fish and wildlife thing, I also have found jobs for all members of the Army football teams in Germany, the Swagmine Sauerkrauts and the Wiesbaden Wizards, who do various things around the plant. It's another Kleinian cars bringing goods and workers into the thing. Like, oh, hell yeah! A scene of football players doing various things. Awesome. I mean, the variety of 80s dance moves. It's like it doesn't. Any of us in 10 seconds could name 3 things that they might do around the plant. Like,
right. Yes.
They're the safety inspectors. They sweep up the shells and they sharpen the shucking knives. There you go. Like.
Yeah, they run the lifts or they stack the pallets, so we can all think of things.
They can run security against Mr. Miller.
Yeah, Mr. Miller.
Sure.
Smitty. Oh, yeah. Mr. McGiver returns. Old Colonel North returns. Obviously, Jim Baker, Tammy Faye.
Oh, after Saddam wrote and said he had other weenies to roast, Saddam, however, says he is keeping his, quote, options open and may be back in touch later. And that's where I said, can we end this book? It's not, it seems like it could be a joke. It's maybe, I guess it's maybe I don't know what it is.
Mr. Bozoski and Gugu Leonti return. So that's good.
Yeah, he I guess it's probably the sort of thing that's like, even as he gets, if you wanted to be charitable, it's like, even as he amasses more success, he's setting himself up for failure by his loyalty is hiring these convicted felons and, war criminals to partake in his operation. But that's more credit than I'm willing to give it.
The rich character of Gretchen shows up.
Yeah.
Again, this truly is like when we were doing years ago, we were doing our feature film of the Mystery Science Theater, the movie. The studio wanted us at the end to do the Animal House.
Okay.
He went on to do this, and we were just like, no. Not going to do it. And they were really insistent. Like,
wow.
People love that. We're like, that is the hackiest bullshit.
Bizarre.
There's no way. And they're like, you are going to do it. And we're like, well, we are going to not do our film then. I mean, that's what it came to. They were just insistent.
Did they want it from characters in the framing Mystery Science Theater part, or from going to this island Earth and doing the...
Oh, no, it's just from our characters.
There's not that many
No, but they, like, he went on to form a, to open an oyster company.
Wow.
And he tonged the hell out of that. I don't know what they wanted, but they just thought it was hilarious.
Interesting. Well, I mean, that's rare misstep for those studio execs.
Yes. Otherwise, unimpeachable. So everybody shows up, and Gretchen, she's working on a business degree. And at that point... Again, I'm reading it on computer, so I can't hurl my computer across the room, but had it been a book.
And she lets him know that by writing a letter where she's turned into, like, Sullivan Ballou from Ken Burns' Civil War. She's like, "Dearest Forrest, I have missed you every day since you left for the war and was terrified that something has happened to you. I even checked through the American Assembly here, like the Ashokan farewell is playing in the background. And after some research, they told me you were now out of the Army and were well. That was all that mattered."
And she ended with a tender ack. So I guess she's still in it. I didn't think she was a character we were going to hold on to, because all he did was, I think, held hands with her, and they talked past each other because neither spoke the other's language. But she's back.
Right. And I feel like there might have been some implication of some hanky-panky, but I don't remember. If there was, it was glossed over and not as explicit as I wanted. So
Right. All right. So Winston Groom at this point, again, he's looking at the word count and he's going, well, I just reintroduced all my characters. Time to sew this thing up. And then he went, word count. Damn. I'm short by 3,000 words.
Yeah. I'm just one word over, and there's one word that I really feel like this book needs to have in it, that it's really earned the use of a horrible slur. So let's get that in here. Let's push it over that point. He offers Smitty a job. After they've put this, I thought this was funny. He puts up like some like Nashville Airbnb live, love, laugh word art behind his desk that says Jonathan Swift's quote, "He was a bold man that first ate an oyster."
Yes.
So that was sort of ahead of its time, I think. It does appear that's an actual quote by him. Just after my initial Google search, that wasn't a misattributed quote.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar. I think that's a pretty good quote.
Yeah. So he offers Smitty a job, but they're not liking our business one bit. Smitty says his people don't work in no integrated positions, so we are having a sort of Mexican standoff.
Yes.
So it's a good way to like trip over your own dick in a sentence by introducing the racist character. I guess that's I don't know. It's a term that people use and understand what it means. But what year is it again? Right? It is 1994. Like
yes. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure that happens, but it's not like it's the 60s.
So he decides to up the word count. He says, "Do you want to go somewhere, son?" And he says, "Yeah, I've been studying, and there's a place in Arkansas that looks pretty good."
God.
What is it? It's called the Whitewash River, he says. Now that's not a chapter break, but a hard break there. So we're all supposed to go, oh no, he's not going to go to the Whitewash River? What? That is supposed to be I just dangled the bait in front of you and the reader is going, wow, the Whitewash River. You wouldn't know what the hell does that mean?
No, I think the only reason that I knew what it was is because we had that real or fanfic where they met Bill Clinton. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have thought.
Yeah.
I would have liked to know going into that blind.
And why doesn't he call it Whitewater? It was Whitewater, right?
I mean, that was
scandal.
Yeah,
the Whitewater scandal.
Yes, it was a Whitewater scandal.
So he calls it whitewash. I guess that's one of his jokes or something, that they were whitewashing the... I don't know. But to leave it hanging as though you're supposed to, like, rubbing your hands together. Oh, he is. He's going to do it. He's going into the Whitewash River, the business. And then, of course, we read it in Real or Fanfic. Clinton shows up. But this just struck me as, oh, my God, is he just filling stuff out here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't look up when this was really in the news. I mean, I guess that was in the news as they were running for president, was like that sort of dogged the campaign, was the investing or whatever happened in this. It was the sort of thing that as a 11-year-old, my eyes glossed over when it got brought up on Weekend Update. But the thing that I alluded to earlier was they mentioned the Whitewashed River, and then they just have this weird aside where Little Forrest is explaining the geologic history of the area, and there's fossils, and he says, "We are close to the beginning of the famous Smackover Formation," he says, where all the oil in the whole southeastern United States come from. So I was like, I looked that up because I was like, well, what is that being a joke on? And the Smackover Formation is a real thing of all the stupidly named things in this book. It preserves fossils dating back to the Jurassic period.
Smackover?
Yeah, like something off of a Waffle House menu or something.
What the hell?
Yeah, give me a 222 with a thing of Smackovers on the side. But yeah, so that was when you're doing so many things like that, Scheisskopf and Bozoski, like that to throw in something that's real that sounds that fake. Yeah. So
from Bill Clinton, yeah, and that doesn't make any sense. I just want to reread in case you missed the real or fanfic that includes it. Well, old Bill looked like sort of a nice guy. I mean, he seemed pretty genuine and had a husky, down-to-earth voice, white, woolly hair, a big old reddish nose looked like Santa Claus's, and a nice laugh. And he even introduced us to his wife, Hillary, who came out of a trailer wearing a granny dress and a hairdo looked like a beetle wig and brung us some Kool-Aid. So, the Bill thing, huh? Red nose, white hair. Hillary, granny dress and a beetle wig. Really paints a picture.
Yeah, it would be there's some new good AI software that will generate images based on your description. So we should, if someone has access to it, put in granny dress, beetle wig, and Kool-Aid and see what we get from that. Because I mean, I know what she looks like. Not probably the picture. If you were doing like a whose line is it anyway type of thing and trying to describe someone based on that way, your partner would be furious with you when the scene ended without you guessing it or password or whatever. Yeah. Come on, she wore granny dresses all the time. I don't know. The grandma from Beverly Hillbillies? No, granny dress and a beetle wig.
Like when someone's drawing something and you can't get it and they keep jabbing the pen into the thing they're drawing.
It's right there.
I'm not getting it.
That's clearly a picture of Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Ronald Reagan was upset getting misty-eyed at the thought of watching Queen for a day. So if these are jokes, they're, no one said they have to be good to put them in a book. I mean, they should be. That should be your goal as an author, but they don't have to be.
He had an audience of one in mind. They say write for yourself or write for Larry King. I think it's the old, old adage.
I'm going to maintain that going forward, even though he'll likely never read it. But I mean, the patented groom subtlety is here when he says, "Bill is the governor of this state. Then how come you out here selling real estate?" I asked him. "'Cause it's the steal of a lifetime," Bill says. So. Let me read that again for you because you might have missed the subtle. It's the steal of a lifetime. Huh?
Yes.
And then it goes on to say, "We's already rich," Little Forrest says. "Well, then you can get even richer," Bill says. "Why, it is rich people that make the world go around. I love rich people. Rich people are my friends." And then that's where the flashing neon sign that says "Get It" kicks on. Kind of sounded like me, like he was running for president, but then I am just a poor old idiot. What in the world do I know? I don't know.
He spends a fair amount of time with him, and then it just kind of ends.
It just ends right after that.
Yeah, but we were all supposed to go like, he did it, man. He took on Whitewater. What exactly did he say about it? Really nothing. It's just a mention of it.
Right. It wouldn't even, it couldn't make a capital steps routine because it doesn't even have the basic punchlines.
A true drive-by. And then, again, to his horror, he looked at the word count and he still hadn't made it. I mean, he'd introduced Mrs. Hopewell again. This thing is supposed to be tied up by now. But instead, they go to a football game.
My God. the last thing that happened in the Whitewater thing was Mr. Tribble says, I took your money. I mean, you were assing around in New Orleans. So I'm glad they got it back.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
But yeah, they go to the Sugar Bowl or the Cotton Bowl or something.
What is it? It's the Sugar Bowl.
But just the idea that they I don't know, if the book had ended with being like him waving goodbye to the Clintons and then being like, and I looked down the river and in a raft coming downstream was a man that I recognized as my old college football friend Vincent Foster, who at least then you'd have some sort of like him having interfered in history or something. But this was just a literally going past them on a river and getting a rundown here. I don't know.
Yes. So they literally just go to a football game, and Gretchen shows up, and they shout "defense, defense."
Yeah, they have a private box and invited some of the rinky dinks I had asked around with over the years.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, so you escalate this from sort of assing around to assing around to assing around with rinky dinks. Gretchen returns, the rich character of Gretchen. Actually, I first thought about Aston, just Little Forest. Account I remember all Gretchen used to say about football was "ack." Wow. So that was a common thing? Did we miss that more than once, or was that the only time?
I think she just said it once, Great. But I guess that's her. That's big tuna. I guess she ate a tuna fish sandwich on day one, so. Big Tuna is her name now, I guess. Ack.
Well, at this game, the sports writer Roger Angel, I'm not sure, Angle, died last month, I believe. Do you ever read his stuff? He, just a legendary baseball writer. Wrote like Boys of Summer, I think, is his main thing.
Oh, okay.
Was regarded as the as high as it gets, and so I think this is some sports writing that sort of rises to his his level. Sure. Defense was all Gretchen could shout. And lo and behold, our defense got so good it would literally snatch the ball out of the hands of them Hurricanes. So yeah, it's just you can smell the popcorn and the beer. You can hear the Superdome shaking. It's like you're there.
Wow. He could have just said somehow we got the ball back from them.
Yeah. When it was all over, we had won. I don't know what happened.
Wow, that is rich writing. Again, he's tapping his foot. Not as fun as Larry. Yeah, Larry's going out. He wants to have a drink, but this Gump character guy, he's just racing towards the end of his 75,000 words.
Yeah, I think he wants to just devote himself back to his true loves, which is like chronicling like an entire trilogy about like day 3 of Sherman's March or something.
He's looking at. He's got those metal cast figurines of the Civil War, and he's got the paint right there.
Oh yeah, he's painting miniatures.
Yes. Damn it. I'll finish the book. All right, here we go. So then he goes back to the oyster business.
Mm-hmm. I want to point out that we did skip over the point where it was probably a page in the book where they go to the zoo and liberate the pig.
Yes.
Led by Oliver North.
I really feel like that's when he started to do the word count and panicked. And so then a football game, because again, he's already wrapped up. Like everything's,
successful business. Everyone's been brought back. Everyone's happy.
Yeah. And then he sees one more turn of the ghost of Jenny.
Yeah, he rows out to get some alone time to the skiffs, and she appears to him sitting on a buoy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she delivers the moral of things, other than hit your kids, obviously. But she says, I guess you finally listened to me, huh? What about? Way back when, about paying attention to Dan. Oh, I says, yeah, I suppose I did. Pretty good, huh? Yeah, I'd say it was. You just needed somebody to keep repeating oysters to you, and finally you'd get the picture. What? So listen to homeless drifters that you meet in a boxcar. But that's not what happened.
No, Bubba's father told him.
Told him explicitly it was a good business deal. Except that it isn't. He told him it was good and bad. Yes. It was Schrodinger's business plan.
Yeah.
God.
So yeah, a very lengthy visit from Jenny, as though we're supposed to care. I think we're supposed to like get a little, just dab the side of your eye, I guess. A little tear rolling up because she says that she always loved him. And say goodbye to me to my mama. Mm-hmm. Well, she's tooling around with her dress half off in a Cadillac, but I'll try.
Wondering why she's wondering where her underwear went. Is her drawers empty? But she's happy not to be wearing any as she's driving her Cadillac.
You know what? I bet she just took those two doilies and stitched those together, and that's all she's wearing.
Yeah, flashing guys on spring break down in outside the Orange Bowl or wherever they are. But yeah, Jenny gives the blessing to his relationship with Gretchen, just like look after little Forrest type of thing. And she delivers this line, which I think was just, this is the kind of word art you could also get on your wall. Memories are what counts in life, Forrest. When there's nothing else left, it'll be the memories that mean anything, everything. And I mean, that really should be your takeaway here. Memories of, the pig shit falling into the tuba and the wife banging the gong, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Memories. And what does he say? He says something that I did not understand when she said the memories. Where is that? Oh. But he said something like, "Oh, do you mean that I'm supposed to," or something?
But she says it'll be the memories that mean everything. But is what you're saying is I won't get to? And she says, probably, but look, you've got the rest of your life in front of you.
Yeah. What does that mean? I don't get that.
I really don't.
Does it mean gets to bang Gretchen or something?
No. I don't think so. I don't know. It's baffling.
Well, right before that is Gretchen. Now, what about Gretchen? How's that coming along? I told you I liked her. She's real people. I don't know. It's kind of embarrassing you asked in that.
Yeah.
Well, memories are what counts in life for. I don't know. I cannot.
I think he's saying like, do you? I won't get to see you again or something like that, maybe. Because I think she does say like, this is going to be it. Like, this is going to be the, it's the ghost of Yoda having done its job for Luke. Like, my work here is done. Like, my planet needs me, type of thing.
Oh, well, good job then, author, because we're both confused. The moment of your great character taking her final bow, and we're all like, what?
Right.
What does that mean?
A great reaction.
All right. I'm slightly less confused.
Well, we've got a couple pages left in the book. It's hard to tell from the print version, but I'd say no more than 6 paperback pages left. So we might as well get wedge the N-word into the book, I would say.
Yep, that's what's been missing. We got all these jokes about slicker than owl shit, pee hole in the snow.
Tubas full of pig poo.
We get buttholes and anuses.
Curly-toed shoes and serving the Ayatollah pork.
Lots and lots of oyster jokes and oyster talk. So it's time.
You've earned it.
For a really horrible, ugly, racist incident.
Yeah. He, what does he do? So he's had Sergeant Kranz, is his old, sergeant and everything. I specify that he was a black man, that at some point in time they mentioned that. And it turns out that Smitty came down to where he was like fixing the boats or something, whipped it out and peed on the boats. And then it's not funny, but it's funny how this incident's supposed gravitas goes down. Began to pee in one of my boats, and when I said something, he and the others grabbed me and began beating me with dead mullets. So they grabbed a bunch of they're like New Zealand the Muppet. They grabbed dead fish and started hitting him with them.
Mm-hmm. Monty Python, joke, the dead fish dance, whatever. You got nothing but slapstick gags in your mind. Okay, so they peed. It's a little ugly.
Yeah.
They done what? And Smitty, he called me a N-word.
Yes. First time anybody's done that to my face. And Forrest's response is that so? Which, I guess instead of saying, like, I don't give a shit, this is Forrest boiling with rage at this point in time.
Yeah. And we learn that he is 59 years old. And there were 8 of 10 big old white boys. So we're deep into terrible ugliness here.
Right.
I'm looking at the end of the book going, what? Really?
Yes. It would be like having little Forrest get hit by a truck at this point in time or something. Like, it's like, what? Come on, it's not this kind of book. But then he says, I'm 59 years old. I'm not going to defend myself against 8 or 10 big old white boys. Well, Sergeant, well, my ass.
Yes.
It's like, all right, well, at least as long as the racist assault can wedge an ass into it somewhere. But
except you told me not to get into any shit with Smitty and his bunch. Please,
Wow.
It's Mr. Miller.
There you go.
I would have tried, but so obviously this character was trying to honor Forrest's wishes to not, just don't stir up any trouble.
Right. But he does not abide by that wish.
No. So a confrontation. I guess this is supposed to be this is Forrest finally coming into his own or something. Instead of stuff happening to him, he does something, I guess. Sure. I don't know. And so at this point, as I read this, I want you all to imagine beloved actor Tom Hanks doing this. First, I grabbed him by the jacket and lifted him off the ground. Then I throwed him into a pile of seagull shit that had been collecting on the dock and wiped his nose in it.
Nice.
Then I turned him around and kicked his big ass over the dock into one of his own oyster boats. And when he landed, it was on his back. I unzipped my pants and peed on him from the wharf above.
Nice.
Beloved Tom Hanks. I like how the pile of shit was needed, so it just appeared like, I threw him into a pile of shit that had been building up there. Did I mention that? Oh, I didn't mention that. No,
Damn it, Mike Mulligan, you're on seagull shit duty. What are you doing?
Yes.
You're slacking. I'm going to send you back to prison. Jim, get Tammy Faye to clean this up. But then what he says is, you ever fool with one of my people again, you will wish you had been brought up as a vegetable or something. And so I wonder if Sergeant Kranz is just like, they did stand around and beat me with 8 to 10 guys beat me with dead fish. So I really did think I was going to die in that moment. So they were fooling with me.
Yes. It went a little far. You heard what they called me, right?
Yeah. That's right. You ever tussle with this guy again?
It'll be fisticuffs. Just about then, something hit me in the arm. One of Smitty's men has got a board with nails in it.
Yes.
And let me say this, it hurt. All right, so now we're up to, they're literally trying to murder him.
Yes, using the weapon that the Moe chased Kodos and Kang away with on The Simpsons, a board with a nail. Like, you only see that in, that or maybe low-tier Roadhouse type bars.
Another guy come at me with a tire tool, which I know only several tire tools. I assume it was one of the air pressure gauges for your tire.
Okay, yeah.
Isn't there another name for a tire tool that I think he's going for?
Where is he going to jab that air pressure gauge, though?
That's true. Is it with the thing out or is it in?
No, he jabbed it and then, whoa.
Yeah. We have a regular old, guys hitting with boards with nails and tire irons. Sorry, tire tools.
Yeah, he jabs one head first into an ice machine, and this is where his status as an Ivan Drago figure really comes out, because he is just sort of tossing him around like Patrick Swayze at the Double Deuce.
Yeah, throws him. He says like a discus. Mm-hmm. He said threw him so hard he was heading off for Cuba or maybe Jamaica. So. There's that, guess, a joke there?
Maybe a misheard lyric to Kokomo, perhaps? I don't know.
And then 59-year-old Sergeant Krantz, who had just endured an awful and emotionally, obviously, had to be wrenching, not to mention an actual physical beatdown.
Yeah, he's wiping mullet scales off of his cheeks, probably.
Yes.
Mixed with tears.
Yeah. Sergeant Krantz, who just endured that and now saw just a horrible beatdown and saw his friend Forrest get actually hit with the board with nails, so he's bleeding. I got a glance of Sergeant Krantz standing there nodding his head. I give him a wink, and he gave me a thumbs up sign. So Really taking these incidents very seriously.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll be waking up screaming about this for years. Thumbs up, buddy. But the rest, as they're doing that exchange, all the folks from Gump Company were cheering and also booing Smitty and his collection of turds, which is he's determined to wedge in asses and shit no matter where, and that is mere sentences before this Harry Chapin exchange. Little Forrest, who is looking at the blood on my arm from where the goon hit me with the board full of nails. You all right, Dad? He asked. Huh? I said, you all right, Dad? You are bleeding. What you call me? I love you, Dad, was what he said, and that was enough for me. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So. All right, man. Make up your mind.
He should have ended that with yes, sir, and then it's a hard carriage return, yes, sir, and then he should have done a hard carriage return and 3 bags full. But why does I don't know why Little Forrest does say, you read it correctly the first time, you a knight, Dad.
Yeah, I don't know. OCR mistake. I can look it up if I'm able to, but I don't know.
But the second time, then it's, I said, you are right, and then it's 2 R's, 1 word, all right.
Yeah, it looks like in the paperback it is all right both times. So
okay. All right.
Whatever.
I didn't think there were those errors in this. This is the official book.
Yeah. But then Winston Groom is like, well, I've hit it. I'm going to dust my hands. I'm going to pick up that miniature of, Traveler, Robert E. Lee's horse. I'm going to start painting it. I'm going to, ignore my wife and smoke a pipe and, do all these old Civil War guy things because I've hit my thing. Gump Company is done.
Yep, it's all over. Here's 2 fingers of this whiskey I've been saved. I do this every book that I write. When I get to the end, I crack open the new bottle of Old Forester.
I toast 40. My painting of Ulysses Grant.
And I have a sip and a pipe, and all is right with. No, he's not done yet.
God damn it, sir! This book ended 10,000 words ago.
Nobody told you it's over? It's over. You got to pry the typewriter out of his hands. It's over. It's like one of those bad movies.
Yeah.
Put the gun down. It's over. Stop typing.
One more incident.
Don't you mention Tom Hanks.
It's not picaresque yet enough. It can be more picaresque.
Don't you mention David Letterman.
Oh, God. And he says, and so that's how it ends, more or less. No, it's less. You keep telling the story. He sort of reminisces about the people that he's missed. He did dump Dan and Sue's ashes. We forgot to mention that, but who cares? But he says, old Bubba, Jenny, my mama, Little Forrest, Jenny's mama, Sergeant Crest, they're all still here. And I ain't forgot what Jenny said about Gretchen neither. And so, in a way, I am the luckiest feller in the world. Pouring the whiskey.
No. We get I don't know what you call this when suddenly the book turns to, itself. I guess this is just some sort of meta commentary.
I call it a double middle fingers crossed at your reader is what I'd call it.
Yes.
But yeah, he winks at the fourth wall.
Yeah. He talks about how they made a movie of his life, played by Mr. Tom Hanks, that I met in New York that night. And then he goes to the Academy Awards.
Yeah. But so the book started with him saying, don't ever let him make a movie of your life. So we all assumed, rightfully, that was how he was addressing the fact that they did this.
Yes.
And then he met Tom Hanks, and it went relatively, it was winky again. But both of these have happened. It's like he forgot that he did both of these things already.
I guess this is supposed to be oh, no. Oh, he's actually, wait. So now we're in I get it. But yeah, he had already done that, obviously. And so it ends, I don't even know, I don't have notes about it because it's so stupid, I can't even.
Well, he goes, he deems the specific Oscars, he identifies it, which is the one that David Letterman hosted infamously. He doesn't reference the Oprah Uma routine.
Oprah Uma, yeah.
And he doesn't reference the tribute they did to David Letterman's scene in Cabin Boy, where he had the line, "Would you like to buy a monkey?"
Yes.
Where they had a bunch of celebrities deliver that line, which was funny. I was confused by the Oprah Uma thing when I first watched it, but
yes.
But yeah, he describes Letterman as a nice feller with big picket teeth and a trick dog and shit.
What does that mean? Did he bring his dog?
Pet tricks? Maybe he did one of those at the Oscars.
Did he do it at the Oscars?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, they bring him up on stage to, I guess, accept an award for being the most lovable certified idiot in America. And he says on stage the first thing that comes to mind, which is, of course, I got to pee, which we were informed was a catchphrase in the first book, but didn't really come up a lot in this one.
No, once or twice, but it came up when he was with Mr. Bozoski.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And then everyone is mumbling and whispering to themselves. So it's instead of being a funny thing, if it was a well-known catchphrase, wouldn't everyone clap? And it's like a beloved catchphrase, right?
It is sort of like Matthew McConaughey in his acceptance speech said like all right.
Yeah,
but
anyway, people are confused, and
but fortunately that was the last confusing and embarrassing thing that would ever happen at the Oscars. So.
Yes, and at that. We get what everyone was, of course, expecting is that Little Forrest throws a giant spitball in Mr. Letterman's face.
Yes. He had chewed up his entire Academy Award program because they don't serve any popcorn. So
what?
He has the world's largest spitball, and it hits Mr. Letterman square between the eyes. So he's got like he's unhinged his jaw to fit this in there, and
I guess. And then I didn't know she was there, but Gretchen is horrified, of course, and cries out, "Oh my goodness!" I don't. What is this? I don't get it.
I was sort of shocked at this point in time because Letterman had motioned for them to get the big hook, like at the Apollo Theater or something.
Yeah,
and haul my fat ass off the stage. So I don't know if he's just let himself go in the meantime here because he was, Ivan Drago before, but maybe he has just sort of in the ensuing years porked out a bit. I don't know.
And I guess there is a gesture for, first of all, there is a hook, as though it is vaudeville of the 20s. And there is a gesture to get the hook, I guess, which everyone recognizes, and it was at the ready. And so someone does hook him, and hook him in the collar, which that's not my impression of how you hooked someone off stage.
Right, around the neck.
Yeah, but it got his collar. And that's when that's when Little Forrest does it. And then from the audience, I hear one shout above all the rest, and it's this: "That's my dad, that's my dad." So he was close enough to... What is happening?
I don't know.
This is very irritating. This is the end of the book.
This is the end of the book. The Oscars is turning into Benny Hill, and he hears above all the commotion and hubbub and blah, 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 blah. But he hears, "That's my dad." And I got to tell you, that was enough for sure. So I reckon... So here's how the book ends. This is the final two sentences. So just after all we've been through, this is how they piece it together. "So I reckon you can say we've been there. And then the curtain comes down on all of us. You know what I mean?" Sir, we do not. But I appreciate the nod to the other lovable idiot of screen and big screen and little screen, Ernest P. Worrell there.
I mean, the editor had to see the last lines and just kind of look up at the author like, "Oh, it doesn't matter." I could tell him why this is a stupid... Who cares? Yeah. All right, get this into the printer. Let's get it out there.
He just does the full both hand shrug and...
do you remember when the Norm Macdonald podcast, when he wrote his book? And then he did a staged thing where he went in to see his editor.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just a series of Norm jokes. "Oh, people are really liking the book, are they?" "Yes, they are very much enjoying the book because the paper is very nice for ripping the pages out and wiping the shit from their asses." Oh, God. What? That's not good news at all.
That's, you could unironically do that with Winston Groom, except he might not even be... he might not get it up enough to care, like in those intervals in between thinking it was good news and having the bad news.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can say we've been there, and then the curtain comes down on all of us. That's
You
really
know
been
what
my
I mean.
takeaway. Yeah.
God.
Well, that puts the nail in this one, man. It was
That puts the nail in the board that hits me in the shoulder and I bleed.
Yes.
In this one
during the racially charged riot.
Yes.
Man, I don't know. I think in terms of ease to read, it vaults it above a lot of books in our catalog. But in terms of being a one-trick pony that doesn't really have any value, certainly in its back half, I got to say, I'd say bottom third for me.
Very much so. Yeah. It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah. Ease to read makes it a big deal, but I think if you're doing something that's this slight, something like a cozy mystery or Dwight David Thrash even at least has more of a less cynical vibe to it.
Yes, I would put. I'll say this. I would put. I'd put the Mister way above this.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't. This is not for me. Whatever this is.
I think I would too. I mean, I think at least that had new characters to get introduced to. I think the novelty of book forest versus movie forest was pretty entertaining, but it really just as we've explored in this episode alone, the theme counts and the word counts of oysters, shit, and ass really honestly just to sort of defined the book, and nothing really brought to these scenarios that he's encountering.
Do you have the list of all of our books that we've done there by any chance, or where can I find that?
Yes, 1 second.
All right, so let's put this book in its place amongst our other books.
I think there's some that I know is it's better than. I mean, sorry, I know that you like better than this book. Trucking Through Time, obviously.
Yes.
The Quilters.
Yes.
What else am I looking at? I'm looking at the spines in there. Obviously, not Lair of the White Worm. James Tice.
Yes,
Eye
of course.
Oregon.
I would put this below Lair of the White Worm.
No.
That one had the novelties of that was made it the peculiarities.
Yes,
made that fun.
Yeah, it wasn't super. The repetitiveness in it was fun as they kept going back to their thing to eat walnuts and stuff.
Walnuts, yeah.
What about Model Land?
Oh, that's a good comparison because
there's sort of
did not enjoy that. That's the lateral move.
Yeah.
That one was so long.
The length was but it was also, you had no idea where it was going,
Yeah, I might put this above that, I guess.
Model Land was probably 3 times as long as this book.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Midnight Sun, the length also. I think that just, it works against it. At least this one was over quickly.
Yeah, I guess this is a little better than Midnight Sun.
My Immortal?
Oh, I liked that better.
Yeah, I think so too. At least, again, when they're so unpredictable, you can never understand. Moon People, obviously, this is better than this.
Way better than this.
Digital Fortress by Dan Brown.
That was a little better than this.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Bob Honey, Who Just Do Stuff.
Oh, come on, that's the.
Yeah, I think I like this better. Tech War, obviously, I liked Tech War better.
Yes.
What about the Klein books?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that was just so much fodder.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah.
To make fun of,
yeah.
But. Yeah, I'd put. Gosh, that's tough.
It is tough. I think I liked discussing those maybe more on the podcast just because it was so embarrassing, and also they were critically acclaimed by more people than just Larry King and Kinky Friedman.
That's true.
So that that works against them and works for them for a comedy standpoint. If I was saying to someone, "What's the better book?" I mean, maybe Ready Player One, but not the other two. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's tough. This is not a good book. I mean, in terms of just quality, it's not a good book.
Definitely not.
He clearly just dashed this off.
Yes.
So yeah, there's no craft, there's no prose, there's no it's just vignettes.
There's
like
no message. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and the vignettes are not even. They're not. There's no takeaway from them other than he was there and sort of like sometimes did stuff.
Yeah, bad jokes, poorly told. That's my review of this.
And sometimes told more than once, like the shopkeeper type of thing.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, I think based on that winds it clearly in the bottom third of what we've done based on our preferences here. But and Antigua, obviously, Antigua is is far superior and more fun.
Oh, yes.
Good. It's good to reassess these every now and then.
Right, Antigua. We got to do one of their other books.
I know. I forget where it stood with people finding the ebook copy of the Teen Archaeologist, but if it does exist or we can track it down, we got to do it. Well, let's read some emails before we wrap this one.
We're going to the party. We're going to the game. We're going to the disco. We're going to cruise out, man. Stealing people.
Sure. What do you got?
This one is from Blake. He said, this book, Gump Co, has been a weird one for me. I immediately wanted to write fanfic for the Berlin Wall, but I was having trouble coming up hitting that stupid sweet spot where Mike bites because it's just the right amount of stupid. Then I got to the actual section in the book and realized I was outmatched. I was never going to be able to do something that dumb. And then he says, after 20 books, I've read all of them except Armada and Ready Player 2 because I correctly felt that Klein had nothing more to offer me. This is the first time where I'm really wondering, is this Winston Groom's Armada? That is this the book everyone says is much worse than the first book, even though it's exactly the same? Which is like, it's probably true, you know? Like, there's nothing that I've heard about the first book that makes me think it's any different from this.
I have not even waded in. I should probably just, look inside the book on Amazon or something. Yeah.
See how many, if bidness pops up on that thing. I mean, odds are it will. Here's the email that you've been wanting to hear. Lucas writes in, the fanfic stats are in. Mike scored 11 out of 15 for Gump Company. So that's an average of 73.33%.
Oh, I'd call that a win.
Yeah. He says, for reference, in Antigua, Mike scored an average of 73.47, so nearly identical. That would imply that the length of the book does not correlate to Mike's performance. Mike's total average is now 60.96%. Which is an increase of 0.54%. So you bumped it up with this one, but I mean it's a real statistic now because you can get 73.3, and that only raises it by 0.5. So it's you're doing better, but I feel like you've reached like a very legitimate indication of your ability here, and that's 3 out of 5.
It's like batting average at the end of a season. Like yes. I feel like I'm on fire, but my batting average is just
right.
I'm still hitting 285 or whatever.
But he provides a Google Doc that has like all the statistics in it. So I'll see if there's a way I'm able to share that with people so they can take a look at sort of color coded and interesting to revisit. Like looking back at a Layer of the White Worm episode 2, you only got 1 out of 4 correct. So
I would like to hear. I'm sure people play along at home, and if someone was very truthful and honest, like what are people scoring
right
at home? And don't give me this. It's like your friend who goes to Vegas, and I always win when I go to Vegas. Right. Sure. Give me the truth.
Right. Yeah.
Let me hear your percentages. Yeah.
Be interested if there was a correlation with your people who read the book or the weirdos who don't read along and just listen. I don't know. Veronica writes in, my husband was a Marine in Desert Storm under General Schwarzkopf. He says that part of Gump Co. sounds like someone told the writer the plot to A Few Good Men, and he tried to condense it into a sentence. And she also says if a commanding officer told a soldier to commit a crime, they'd both be court-martialed for what it's worth. So, almost as if for a guy with such a strong knowledge of military history, he was not aware of that fact.
He really glossed over an entire war there.
This is from Harris. He says, I really loathe Little Forrest. I'm not sure we're supposed to find him pleasant, but he's not. And he doesn't change throughout the book. The first time we meet him, I read an article once that said if we do X, Y, and Z, we can fundamentally alter the nature of an entire industry. And then the last time we meet him, he says, I read an article once that says if we do X, Y, and Z, we can fundamentally alter the nature of an entire industry. And probably needing $100,000s of dollars to implement any of these plans, Forrest does it over the afternoon with a shovel, and he's never treated as preternaturally genius other than him being sort of ahead of in school, but not crazy ahead.
Well, there's another trait that you left out, is that he is able to chew an entire Oscar brochure into the largest spitball you've ever seen. It's an odd character trait, but it's definitely at the top of his character list.
I remember in our Starship Troopers live show, there was a scene where it panned to Denise Richards grinning her sort of Denise Richards grin, and the line was just, "I can fit an entire can of tuna in my mouth."
Yes.
So I think that's what Forrest has going for him. So we've got to reread the book with that picture, his huge mouth.
Yes.
But Harris also says this is definitely in the top quarter of books you've done. It's a quick read, and while terrible, it's not dreading every page terrible. It was fun, though. I'm glad it didn't overstay its welcome by teaching us how Forrest was responsible for developing the Atari ET game. So, I mean, agree to disagree on that. Short and quick, and, while terrible is something that you're saying. While terrible, it's still in the top quarter of books you've ever done.
Yeah, don't give it a break. Just call it terrible and leave it at that.
This was from Everett. He wrote in an email with the subject line, Alaskan here. So this is about the last section of the book. And his email address, I obviously won't give it out here, but it ended in @alaskan.com. So I think he's proven he's legit here.
That is legit.
He says, "Hello, I am an Alaskan, and as such, I found Forrest Gump's description of Alaska pretty much spot on. I'm not reading along nor a Patreon supporter, but I'd like to say the description of polar bears and walruses and other dangers from the podcast are basically my everyday concerns. I have literally had bald eagles steal my ice fishing fish." Now he was kidding. Anyway, I figure you might like to hear that as a fun fact. And as a fun fact, this part is serious. My dad was in charge of the Alaska National Air Guard the night the Exxon Valdez went down. Therefore, he was one of the first to hear about it, and he was responsible for mobilizing the response to the wreck. When I told him that according to Winston Groom, the character of Forrest Gump was in charge of the ship, he gave me the most withering look I've ever seen and made me feel bad I brought it up.
Oh, dear.
I hope he still respects me after hearing that, but whatevs, I've got harpoons to dodge. So, it's probably anyone who might have dealt with the aftermath of one of the many disasters or incidents he describes here probably might not hear their thing being reduced to a drunken Benny Hill brawl on a cruise ship.
He ends weekly with, "Mr. McGiver, I gotta go."
This one's from Elizabeth. Last episode, we congratulated a listener couple who we thought were the first couple to get engaged that listened to it. And she said, "Just wanted to know that a listener named Will and I got engaged in January 2021. Will is the co-founder of the 372 Facebook fan group. So we beat Janelle and Andrew to that phase.
Oh, nice.
He never writes in, but he did call in the last time we had a Patreon show. We've discussed playing the theme song as I come down the aisle with a little explanation to the guests so they don't freak out. But we've drawn the line at dressing in the inflatable suits.
Joe, come on. In for a penny, in for a pound.
Yes, but congratulations to them. If that does happen, let us know. It could be that next viral dance down the aisle that they.
Yes.
Or it could just, have a elderly relative who spent $800 on a plane ticket to fly there, getting up and shaking his head and walking out of the venue. So.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, congratulations. Alexander, this is the last email. He says he has a theory here. The book writer signed a deal for the profits, which we did cover, and then was not paid anything because the studio claimed the movie lost money, and then he sued. Shortly after that, he dropped the lawsuit, saying he understood once the accounting was explained to him and the studio bought the rights to Gump Co. So Alexander's theory is what happened is the studio, not wanting to reveal their Hollywood accounting system and lose the lawsuit, agreed to buy the rights to Gump Co. for a large amount of money in trade for him dropping the suit. The book itself may have been rushed out without much thought to facilitate the payout. Makes about as much sense as anything as far as I'm concerned.
Wait, is this all a theory, or does he know?
I think it's all a theory.
All a theory. Okay. I thought maybe that part was. It could be. It could be.
Well, yeah. We'll buy the book. We're clearly not going to make the movie, so just get something out there that resembles a novel, Winston.
Yes, and in that theory, then he would have allowed himself that little bit of, like I'm going to jab a thumb in their eye. A little bit at the beginning and then at the end, right?
Yes. Yep.
And so the Hollywood exec is like, whatever.
Yeah, you really got us. I'm going to go just light some more money on fire for fun.
Right.
You enjoy painting those miniatures.
I'm going to drive my Cadillac with the top down and flirt with that granny. That's what I'm going to do.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up with our final dumb set in the desert. From horizon to horizon, Our tanks and personnel carriers and mechanized guns is lined up in all directions. And she objected to there being multiple horizons because there is just one. It's continuous. And she questioned why they would be lined up in all directions. They should be facing the same direction. Otherwise, they're going to run into and shoot each other. Well, I mean, Jamie and Mark B both submitted. So when they're out there to take a shit, they can grab a hold of the end of the shoes and it keeps them on balance.
Okay. Yep.
Lindsay submitted, all through the channel in the back bay, I could hear foghorns of boats and bells from the buoys and things, and the sun is setting like a big old red biscuit through the mist.
Those red biscuits.
Yes, every sentence is a painting. Here's Jeffrey submitted. The good news is, for those of you who wish to start killing a dying, which if you didn't know is your business, you are going to be afforded every opportunity, thanks to some bitch called Saddam Hussein, who is the Arab in charge of Iraq and who has now started a war with our own commander-in-chief, the United States of America President George Herbert Walker Bush. That's all one sentence. And he's he says that Groom's incessant portrayal of the military is a bunch of hick rubes who mindlessly sign up to be cannon fodder, hit critical mass with this shit. Which is, yeah, it's a weird thing for the, again, what do we know about this guy? He's a military scholar, so it's an odd, just a very odd portrayal. This one's from Mike. He submitted the No Time for Sergeants. Deeply unnecessarily cleaning, and why in the world do we need a movie reference to understand cleaning toilets? Let alone that movie. Like,
yes.
Hayden and Craig both submitted Lieutenant Dan's summation of the first 3 quarters of the book. You done tricked the Ayatollah, got thrown in jail, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, wow.
Amanda submitted Us in the City of Baghdad was about as welcome as a tank full of bastards at a family reunion. She speculated that tankful just might have been on his mind because they were trying to look for a tank full of gas at the time.
Yeah.
Even though they were in a tank. So who knows which one it is. There's 2 tanks going on. Blake submitted this one, which I missed, but it's very funny. He's talking about his relationship with Gretchen. It was now generally too cold to go on picnics up in the mountains as the Alps become chilly in the winter. Intentional?
One of his dumb... It's just... as I said, I wrote a note that says... his irrelevancies and his jokes are indistinguishable.
Sure. Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, is that a joke? If you have to ask, is it a joke or not, then you have failed.
Right.
But I think he would say that, his failures are also jokes would be his cover.
Right. And
that's a joke.
Yeah. And because Forrest is dumb, obviously that's the whole point of it. But that reads like something like a line from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Like it's not something that like a dumb person, Forrest clearly is at the point where he understands seasons and the changes of temperature that go along with them. I don't know.
Here's one that this is an example of joke or irrelevancy. Me and Sergeant Krantz, who has now been promoted to corporal, and Lieutenant Dan are in command of one of the tanks. You know what I mean? Is that a joke? Me and Sergeant Krantz, who has now been promoted to corporal.
Is that a downgrade in military? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, remember he was busted down to buck private.
Got it.
But it's just like, if it's not a joke, do we need to know that or care? It's never brought up again. It has nothing to do with anything. So I'm guessing it is, in his mind, some sort of joke, but I don't care.
Right,
and I didn't want to have to figure that out. So it just irritated me.
Yeah, that's very clumsy. I guess it's, if he always calls him Lieutenant Dan post-Army, and it's a joke because Lieutenant Dan is probably not what you'd call him. He's always going to call him Sergeant Krantz because that's how he got introduced to him initially, even once he was busted down. Janelle submitted this one, which is another one that is he just didn't care. It is also hot. This is talking about them driving out to Baghdad in the tank. It is also hot, and with 5 people inside the tank, it is even hotter. She just said, not 5 pages ago, he said the tanks were air-conditioned, so I don't know what's going on there. Harris submitted the Chinese gong sound for Mrs. Hopewell. And Andrew submitted the sentence, a mad giant tiger, which is the sentence after he described a noise as being something that would be from a giant tiger. he just doubled down to describe it as a mad giant tiger.
Oh, God.
I have one sentence we didn't address, which is Saddam Hussein is one happy bastard, and he is cussing and crying and calling up to his Allah. That's just another one, sort of like that other one I asked you if you had just read that before we started a book. Like, here's one that we're going to go into. Like, enjoy the ride, folks.
Well, I read this already, but I'll read it again, and I'll ask you to put yourself in the same frame of mind.
Okay.
Do you want to read this book? On your way, you degenerate turd, says Sergeant Krantz, and he give old Saddam a big kick in the ass.
Fat ass or just... Yeah.
Yeah.
If we had had either of those beforehand, would have been a good guessing game as to what we were about to read.
Yes. All right. Well, we did it.
We did it. That was book 20. That's quite a journey. And thanks to everyone who took along with us, especially everyone at patreon.com/372pages.
And we will have to get together soon and decide on the next book.
Yeah. And another fun announcement that we have coming up. Maybe we'll put that in the text of the Patreon description so people can get a little head start on that. But I've got one more Coke to drink too, because we hit that goal, but we never hit your...
No, we didn't hit.
And I believe they expire. I think, it had to hit it during Gump Co. We're not going to be going to, Gump and Company, whatever, Bubba Gump Shrimp Company as we're reading Ready Player 3 or something.
Well, I don't know. I'll show you the menu.
Okay.
And, if you're in town, might as well.
We could do it. We can embrace the irony, but we'll see. It depends it depends what we have to, if we're in the vicinity, maybe. I've never been to the Mall of America, so.
You're in for a treat. So that's a little hint of we have a big announcement coming.
Yeah, we'll get to that soon. But yeah, thanks everybody. We'll be back with something else soon. And thanks to Patreon supporters. And keep your asses out of the jackpot, I guess.
Keep assing around, everyone. So long.
Bye.